Hello, my name is William. I'm part of the product marketing team here at GitLab. And in this video, I'd like to tell you about products, services, and solutions, and how we use those terms in B2B marketing companies, and in particular, tech companies. The words products, services, and solutions, sometimes they're used interchangeably. There is nuance in the way these terms are used. And so sometimes it can be confusing. Are we talking about a product? Are we talking about a solution? Are we talking about a service? So hopefully this video will clarify these terms a little bit and help you out with that. So in this video, I'll share some of the differences and nuances in these terms. I'll share how we use them here at GitLab, and I'll even share with you some examples at how other companies tend to use these terms. So in the broadest sense, a product is really anything at all you buy from a company, whether it's a good, a service, or an idea. It's all just a product. So sometimes you can say, is that a product or a service? Or somebody will have a service offering and they'll call it a product. That's just because anything at all can be a product in the broadest sense. But in a more narrow sense, in the traditional world of marketing, the products are usually just the goods and ideas that you buy from a company. After you purchase it, you tend to own that thing. So it could be a physical thing that you buy and you do a one-time purchase. And the word here is usually CapEx, or capital expenditure. This is when you as a company purchase something for your business and you expect to get value from it for a long time. So for example, like buying a server that you put into your server room is a product that you buy from another company, and it's a capital expenditure for you. The services are usually actions that you pay for somebody else to perform. And the fulfillment is usually completed over some period of time. It's not a discrete interaction. And this is why they call it OpEx, or operating expense, because it's part of your monthly operating budget or your period of time that is your operating expense rather than a single one-time expense. So the idea is if you pay somebody to come and install that server for you, that's a service that they're offering. The installation there is an installation service. In the world of tech, we talk about this between a product and a service, or CapEx and OpEx, in terms of on-premises and cloud. So if you have an on-premises data center, the server I was talking about, that's a capital expenditure to buy it. But if you shift to the cloud and you are using a public cloud service like AWS or Google or IBM, now you're paying monthly. And so you're converting the cost of that from a capital expense to an operating expense, from CapEx to OpEx. So those are kind of like in the more traditional sense, products and services. And in a consumer way to conceptualize this is if you buy a haircutting kit, it's a product. Getting the haircut itself is a service. I think that makes sense. And some more kind of tech examples could be product could be a software file or license key, features and capabilities. When you purchase, you have access to capability. Whereas some examples of services could be consulting work, contract work, or even the hosting and the delivery. So for example, if you have a database product, I could buy that database product, install that software on my server and run it myself and self-manage that database. That could be a product. But or somebody could offer a database service, and then I just pay it as a cloud service, and they're doing the hosting and the delivery of that database. So that's why you'll hear about cloud services, because they're doing the hosting and delivery. But this is where the term SaaS comes from, which literally means software as a service, right? Instead of downloading and installing software, I'm getting it as a service from a cloud company. But this can then be kind of confusing, because very often SaaS companies will talk about their SaaS offering as a product. And so the difference with a B2B tech company, particularly those ones that offer services, cloud services or SaaS, then the difference between a product and a service in this kind of context will then be, usually the products are the things that you buy that don't require manual fulfillment. So for example, that database service, they'll call a product, right? Even though it's a database service, they call it a product. But they still talk about services. They still differentiate between products and services, but the services are the things that usually require a human to fulfill. So in the example here, the SaaS offering might be your product, but services might be the setup installation, training, support. These are things that we usually categorize as services. And at GitLab, these types of services are fulfilled by either our professional services, that's what we call them, PS, because they're offering services. They do training and setup and support configuration for our customers, or our channel partners offer these services. So our channel partners, this is part of the value. That's why I call it a value added reseller, is because they're providing additional value when they, when they sell GitLab to somebody, they're paying for the GitLab license, but then the channel partner will come in and provide services, the setup and the installation and training and configuration, those kinds of things. So at GitLab, we just have one product. So this is kind of unique. Most companies have more than one product, especially companies our size. They usually have many, many products. But for us, we just have one product, GitLab. But we deliver it in a few different ways. So we have self-managed GitLab and we have SaaS GitLab. And those are just kind of different delivery mechanisms, but it's still the same product. And that's kind of unique because not every other company does this. An example of this would be GitHub. And with GitHub, their product that you buy and you manage yourself is called GitHub Enterprise, and their SaaS offering, github.com, those are two different products. They're two different code bases. They don't use the same thing. So those are really two different products for them. But for us, the same GitLab software that we give to our customers to run, or that we sell to our customers to run, or that we do give as well as open source, we run that ourselves in our SaaS. So it is the same software, the same product in both places. That's kind of unique in the market. And then we have different tiers. Sometimes you'll hear people say, our premium product or ultimate product, but really those aren't different products. It's still the same product. It's still GitLab. And those are just different pricing tiers or feature tiers because there are different features that are offered at each tier. Now this brings us to solutions. What's the difference between a product and a solution? Well, a solution is something that solves a problem. That seems kind of obvious. If you're solving a problem, you call that a solution, right? But in this case, it's usually a business problem. And when we're talking about solutions, or when a business buyer or an IT buyer, which could be a technical practitioner looking to buy or influence, or a technical buyer, when they're looking for a solution, they're looking something that solves their problem. And usually businesses that offer this is going to be a combination of products, and it can also include services. So sometimes companies will bundle together a solution and sell that solution or market that solution. And it's kind of sometimes a combination of different products, but it could be a product, but just stated in the customer's terms. And solutions tend to be categorized by things like use case or industry or market segment. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit. The difference between products and solutions are that the products that you market are from your company's point of view. So you're marketing your product, and your customer may or may not know about that product, at least until they come and hear about it from you. But the solutions are from their point of view. They tend to know that they have some type of problem that they want to solve, and looking for a solution to that problem. So this is why we talk about both of these different things, products and solutions, because it can be to a different type of buyer, or a buyer with a different level of familiarity. The other difference here is that sometimes more technical practitioners will know about specific products and will look for specific products and even specific features, whereas some IT buyers that are, a buyer persona that's not the technical practitioner, but it's an IT leader, somebody like an executive or a director in an IT enterprise, they tend to look for solutions. They might not care about the specific products, but they do care about the solution. So solutions tend to be categorized, as I mentioned, use case or industry org type. So use case for us could be things like source code management as a use case, CI/CD or DevSecOps or GitOps. And you've probably heard of some of the use cases that right around now, we have 7 or 8 that we officially have 7 or 8 use cases, but we could add more. And this is the customer's way that they use it. So again, they know that they have a problem with managing source code. They need somewhere to store it. They need a version control solution. They need some way to do code review, et cetera. And that's source code management is a solution they're looking for. They could also be looking for a particular industry, like their healthcare or company or their finance company. And so when they're looking for a particular solution, they're going to look for something that is for their particular industry. And a lot of products a lot of companies offer different products for those different industries. At GitLab, we have a very, what we call horizontal product. We don't differentiate the product by verticals. So the product, the GitLab that we offer to healthcare is the same GitLab that we offer to finance. We can sometimes talk about how the benefits are different, but we don't talk about these as much because we really offer the same product to all of those different industries. And then also, sometimes this is categorized under industries, or they might call this market segment or organization type. And this is the idea of like if you're a startup or you're an SMB or you're a large enterprise or maybe you're nonprofit. And the idea is you go looking for a solution and you're looking for a solution like you want to do source code management, let's see, but I want to know how that works for SMB, or I want to know how that works for enterprise. Those could be different solutions. And so I'm looking for something for me. Again, this is all like in the customer's terms. So some examples of this, as we can kind of go look at some other companies that how this looks like, are if we go to AWS, we can see they have products and they have solutions. So under products, they have things like Amazon EC2. This is their classic compute by a VM in the cloud, or RDS is their SQL server. I talked about that database service. This is one of them. And then they also have solutions. And here they are categorized by use case and by industry and by org type. Where use case, these are some of the same things that we talk about. So for example, DevOps, or they have some different use cases because they have different products. But you can see that the kinds of things like Internet of Things or machine learning, edge computing, of course, industries, automotive, financial services, government, et cetera, or by org type. And here they, if you are companies of different size, or maybe you're a public sector company, you want to go and see how AWS works for you. This is how they market that. Very similar, Google Cloud, they have products, things like Compute Engine and Google Kubernetes Engine, et cetera. And they have solutions. And here they talk about these use cases like databases, app modernization. We would talk about application modernization possibly as a use case. It's not an official kind of one that we've coined right now, but that could be a use case for us. Security, we talk about security as a use case, or we call it DevSecOps in particular. Security is kind of more broad. And then, under industry here, they have not just, entertainment, telecommunications, but they put things like the org type, the SMB org type here under industry solutions. HashiCorp, same thing. Products are things like Terraform, Vagrant. Their solutions are things like infrastructure automation. We call that GitOps, or we could talk about infrastructure automation. That's a use case solution for us as well. Chef, they have products and they have solutions. One thing is interesting is they have GDPR. So if you're looking specifically for a particular type of compliance, this is, again, the solution is stated in the customer's terms, right? The product is the name of your product. So they have a product called Chef Desktop. So that's their product. And you may or may not know what Chef Desktop is, but if you want to learn about it, here's the place you go. Whereas you might say, okay, well, I want to do infrastructure automation or infrastructure management. In this case, I want to do infrastructure management. And I want to know how that applies to GDPR. I want to know how that applies to cloud native or DevSecOps. And these could be, solutions for us as well. I think Datadog is kind of interesting because they are closer to how GitLab is, where they've got like one big product, but there are these other components of it. One of the differences is they price differently for all of these things, whereas we offer one price. But you can kind of see that when they talk about the features of their product, one of their features is application performance monitoring, or APM. Whereas for another company, that might be a whole product unto itself, but Datadog calls it a feature because it's just a feature of their really big product. This is really similar to GitLab, where at GitLab, another company might have a CI/CD product or even just a CI product. But for GitLab, because it's one big thing, CI is just one of our features. Twilio is another great company. They do products and solutions. One thing that's I think is really interesting about theirs is they split up not just by industry or market segment, but also by department. So if you are within a company and you want to use Twilio and you're part of the marketing company, you might use it differently. You might have different use cases or a different solution you're looking for, as opposed to, say, if you're the operations part of the org. And Atlassian does something kind of similar. They have their products, things like Jira and Trello, and they don't call it solutions. They say 4 teams, which is kind of part of their branding, but this is really their solution section, which they do by company size. or by industry, by finance or IT, but they also have by team function. So that could be another way to categorize your solutions. The last example I want to look at here is Salesforce, and I think they do something really interesting because they don't have, they don't kind of differentiate here between products and solutions. They just kind of have everything under products, but this really is a solutions. And you can kind of see how it can get confusing because sales is something in my terms. I'm working in sales or I want to do sales. And so I want to know what Salesforce offers for sales, or I want to know what Salesforce offers for marketing or for commerce. Those are in my terms, but things like Customer 360, things like work.com, I don't know what that is. I don't have a work.com problem. So these are very much products and these are solutions, but they just stick it all in our products tab, which is okay. And then, of course, they split out by industry or by business size. So with all that, hopefully in this kind of video was quick enough and gave you a little bit of a flavor, a little bit of understanding of products, services, and solutions, and how sometimes there can be some overlap between those terms, but there's a little bit of nuance and you can use them and you can understand when people talk about them, what they mean in different contexts. Catch you later on.